ever wondered why you keep repeating the same mistakes? Why you always seem to attract the same kind of toxic people? Or why, no matter how hard you try to stay positive, you end up sabotaging your own success? What if I told you the real reason isn't bad luck or fate, or even a lack of willpower? The real reason might be something you've been avoiding your entire life: your shadow. Carl Jung, one of the greatest psychologists of the 20th century, once said,
"Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate."
In this video, we're going to dive deep into Jung's idea of the shadow. We'll talk about what it is, why ignoring it is quietly destroying your life, and how working with it can unlock freedom, creativity, and true self-mastery. Stay with me, because this may be the most important inner work you'll ever do. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, we explore psychology, philosophy, and personal growth through some of the deepest thinkers in history. If you enjoy learning how timeless wisdom can transform modern life, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon so you don't miss future videos. Carl Jung described the shadow as the hidden side of our personality, the parts of ourselves we repress, deny, or simply don't want to admit. It's everything we push out of the light of consciousness: our anger, our envy, our selfishness, our impulses. But here's the twist. It's not just bad stuff. The shadow also contains hidden strengths, talents, and desires we've buried, things like creativity, boldness, assertiveness, or sexual energy. Why do we repress these things? Usually because of childhood conditioning. Imagine a little boy who expresses anger. His parents scold him. "Don't be angry. Good boys don't act like that." He learns anger is bad and buries it deep. Fast forward 20 years, he's now an adult who can't set boundaries, who gets walked over in relationships. Because his anger, his natural power, was exiled into the shadow. Or take a girl who was told she's too loud or too much. She learns to tone herself down, to play small, to be agreeable. But inside, that confidence and vitality is still there, locked in the shadow. Jung's point is that the shadow is not evil, it's unconscious. The problem isn't what's in the shadow, the problem is ignoring it. So what happens when we ignore our shadow? Jung warned that the more we deny it, the more power it has over us. Let's break down the costs. You end up repeating the same destructive patterns over and over again. Psychologists call this repetition compulsion. Have you ever noticed how some people leave one toxic relationship only to fall into another, almost identical one? That's not coincidence. It's the shadow at work. Jung said, "What you resist not only persists, but grows in size." If you repress your own controlling tendencies, you might constantly attract controlling partners. Your shadow is seeking expression, and until you face it, it will keep showing up in your life as fate. The second cost is projection. When you ignore your shadow, you end up projecting it onto others. Here's how it works. Let's say you deny your own selfishness. You want to see yourself as a generous, selfless person. But deep down, that selfishness still exists. Since you can't admit it in yourself, you start seeing it everywhere in others. Suddenly, everyone around you seems selfish. On a collective level, this is how scapegoating and prejudice work. Groups project their own denied traits onto the enemy. It's not just psychology, it's politics, culture, even war. Third, ignoring your shadow drains your life force. Think about how much energy it takes to constantly repress feelings of anger, sadness, or desire. That energy doesn't just disappear, it turns into depression, anxiety, or numbness. Have you ever felt stuck, uninspired, or like a part of you is missing? That's often the shadow knocking at your door. Inside, it may be the very energy you need to feel alive again. And finally, ignoring your shadow sabotages success. Many people think they fear failure, but often, what they really fear is success. Why? Because success might awaken shadow aspects like arrogance, envy, or guilt. Take an artist who hides their work. They say, "I'm just afraid people won't like it." But deep down, they're afraid of their own power. If they succeed, it will force them to own the parts of themselves they've kept hidden. So instead of growing, they self-sabotage. They procrastinate. They settle. In short, ignoring your shadow keeps you trapped in cycles of pain, projection, and unrealized potential. At this point, you might be wondering, okay, but how do I know my shadow's running the show? Here are some clear signs. First, emotional overreactions. If you explode with anger over something small or feel overwhelming jealousy out of nowhere, that's the shadow surfacing. Second, strong dislikes. If you hate someone without a clear reason, there's a good chance they're mirroring your shadow. The traits you despise in them may be the very traits you've denied in yourself. Third, repeated self-sabotage. You say you want to get healthy, but you binge at night. You say you want love, but push people away. These contradictions are often shadow behaviors. Fourth, feeling divided. Part of you wants growth, another part drags you down. That's the conscious self versus the unconscious shadow. Fifth, chronic guilt, shame, or inner emptiness. The more you repress, the heavier the shadow becomes. And here's the key point. The shadow isn't just a bag of flaws. Jung said, "The shadow is 90% pure gold." That means inside the very traits you've buried, your anger, your ambition, your wildness, lies your hidden treasure. So how do we integrate the shadow? Jung's answer wasn't about eliminating it. You don't kill the shadow. You make peace with it. You bring it into consciousness. You reclaim it. Let's look at some powerful practices. The first step is radical honesty with yourself. Start noticing what you criticize most in others. That's often projection. Ask yourself, what about them bothers me so much? What does that say about me? Journal on it. For example, I can't stand arrogant people. Right. Where am I arrogant? Where am I afraid of being arrogant? This is shadow gold. Second, try active imagination. This was Jung's own technique. Sit quietly. Close your eyes and imagine your shadow as a person standing in front of you. Maybe it looks like you. Maybe it looks different. Ask it questions. What do you want from me? What have I been ignoring? What do you need me to see? Write down the answers without judgment. Often you'll be shocked at the wisdom that comes through. Third, use creative expression. The shadow communicates through dreams, art, writing, and play. Let yourself draw something ugly. Write a story from the perspective of your dark side. Dance in a way that feels wild and unpolished. This isn't about making good art. It's about giving the shadow a voice. Fourth, practice owning your power. Remember, the shadow isn't just negative. It holds your boldness, your sexuality, your leadership. If you've always been the nice one, experiment with saying no. If you've always played small, practice speaking up. Each small act of courage integrates the shadow. And finally, remember the goal is integration, not elimination. Jung said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." The more you own your shadow, the more whole you become. Here's a simple exercise you can start tonight. 1. Think of a recent moment when you overreacted emotionally. Maybe you snapped at someone. Maybe you felt jealous or anxious. 2. Write it down. What triggered me? What exactly did I feel? What does this remind me of from the past? 3. Now ask, what part of myself am I refusing to acknowledge here? 4. Finally, say out loud, I accept this part of me. I choose to work with it, not against it. Do this daily. Over time, you'll start to see patterns. You'll catch glimpses of your shadow. And with awareness, you'll reclaim your power. Ignoring your shadow is like ignoring half of who you are. It quietly controls your life, your relationships, and your destiny. But when you integrate it, you reclaim lost energy, creativity, and freedom. Carl Jung believed the greatest task of adulthood is individuation, the journey to wholeness. Shadow work is the doorway. So ask yourself, what part of me have I been running from? And what would my life look like if I finally turned toward it? If this video resonated with you, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. And let me know in the comments, what's one shadow trait you've noticed in yourself lately? Thank you for watching. And remember, wholeness is not found in perfection, but in integration.